Polipede works here. Spoilers for Wano and Egghead. Okay, so is Law better at using Haki than Kaido and Big Mom? Well, sorta, kinda. So at the start of Egghead, we see that Doc Q, through the powers of the Sick Fruit, has changed Law's crew from men to women, right? Then Law grounds himself. I'm going to refer to it as Haki grounding, with a particular type of Haki to change his gender back to its normal state. Okay, in doing that, he mentions that he learned this technique within the fight between Kaido and Big Mom. As you may know, during the Onigashima raid, he was unable to displace him with the use of Room because their Haki was too great. Their Haki sort of anchored them to their positions, right? Okay, I think this is the truth to an extent, but also a lie when it comes to awakened Devilfruit powers, because I think when a person is exuding Haki normally, they can actually become immune to most common devil fruit powers, right? So they don't get altered, they don't get shifted, they stay grounded in their positions. They are the conquerors of their own bodies, right? Especially if they have Conqueror's Haki. I think this playing field is then shifted when they are fighting an awakened Devilfruit user, because then you actively have to use Conquerors to bat off this invading threat of this awakened Devilfruit user using their alteration powers to affect your state of being. I think that's why throughout the fight, Kaido is constantly turned into a cartoon character. He's blown up, his eyes are turned into rubber because he's not using his Conquerors defensively. Same with Big Mom. Big Mom was susceptible to K-Room and R-Room because she wasn't using her Conquerors defensively. Why do you think that is? Well, think of it like an RPG build. When you already have such high stats in defense, so much so that being pierced is either a walk in the park or simply an impossibility, you wouldn't use your sort of buff to invest into defense. Why would you? There's no one on the sea that can actually conventionally hurt you. And if you meet someone that can, you would just best them with your ridiculous offensive might. That is what I think the philosophy is between Kaido and Big Mom. Kaido was actually stabbed and penetrated several times during the Wano arc, but it didn't matter because his natural defenses and possibly his added defenses with being a Zoan sort of just canceled all that out until they didn't when he fought Luffy in Gear 5th. Then, same with Big Mom. Big Mom, I think more so than Kaido in a lot of circumstances, just isn't penetrated non-consensually. I'm gonna let the joke land for a bit. Give it a second. Okay, so that's why she can be taken advantage of with K-Room, because she simply doesn't use her Haki, certainly not her Conqueror's Haki, defensively most of the time, because why? Why would you? No one can actually hurt you. Therefore, it's a surprise when they actually do, because you've never met someone who actually can, and in the event that you have, your other powers are so immense that you can just ward off their offense on offense. Defense never really comes into play because they never get a hit in. You see this too a little bit in Kaido and Big Mom's sparring match. They simply trade blows back and forth with no one actually making contact. And in the off chance they do, nothing really happens. So they're both unstoppable forces and immovable objects until wackiness comes into play that they're not prepared for. So is Law better at using his Conquerors defensively? Yes. And I think this is the case because, especially in his case, is unlike Luffy, but also like Luffy, he is a defensive fighter, but like Luffy, he uses distortion to his advantage. So with Luffy being the offensive one in this situation, his use of distortion, his use of confusion is basically throwing his opponent off with cartoon antics. This has happened several times. That's just his fighting style. Law approaches battles in a very similar way by using his op fruit and the use of his room to distort the bodies and positions of his opponents. We've seen this several times. The only direct attacks that he has, which still have a weird defense allegory thing associated with them because they bypass defense, are Gamma Knife and Shock Wooly under the use of K-Room, which are basically both the same thing if you want to think of it that way. But yeah, so I think in the future, Law will be way more resistant to, say, abilities like Luffy's when he's in Gear 5th, because he already has the sort of mindset to resist or use his Conqueror's Haki to resist alteration, whereas Big Mom and Kaido simply did not invest in that sort of skill set because they had no need to. With that being said, I hope all that made sense, and see you next time. If you like stuff like this, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Polipede Works. And if you like what you see, I would appreciate your subscription. Thank you so much. See you next time.